The U.S. Border Patrol is coming under fire after a bombshell report by ProPublica revealed disturbing posts and memes from a Border Patrol Facebook page. In that Facebook page, current and former Border Patrol agents joke about migrant deaths and post sexually explicit comments about female politicians. But do these agents have a right to free speech online? Or should the very people who are supposed to protect the U.S. borders be held accountable for these online posts? For answers to these questions, let's turn now to investigative journalist Ben Swann. All right, Ben, so it is a tough read, some of these things, some of these posts they've made, but several of them referred to members of the Hispanic caucus, specifically AOC, and Texas Representative Veronica Escobar while they visited a troubled detention facility in El Paso. Is this being blown out of proportion, just a group of, border agents horsing around? Or do you think the American public should take issue with the agency that they represent?
So I'd say yes to both of those things. I think that, first of all, the page itself is actually a private Facebook group specifically set up for current and former Border Patrol agents. So it's not a public group, it's a private group on Facebook. Having said that, some of the things that are posted in there clearly are offensive and are wrong, just flat out wrong. You mentioned AOC was the subject to some of these. Veronica Escobar, who, by the way, I actually know pretty well because she's from El Paso. I'm from El Paso, and I actually covered her when I was working in local TV there as a news anchor. And so I actually know her pretty well. She was referred to as a hoe. So was AOC, and they talked about throwing burritos at them. But these are just comments that some of the posters left. So the idea that the entire Facebook group is nothing but hate, vitriol, and references to sexual assault is untrue. There were a few things on there that were absolutely out of line, no question about it. And based on Border Patrol rules and code of conduct, those posters, I'm sure, will be punished if they are current Border Patrol. But there are some former Border Patrol members and agents who are a part of this group, and there's nothing the Border Patrol can do about that. That is free speech, whether you like the speech or not. Yeah.
Now one particular post actually depicts the father and toddler who recently drowned trying to cross the border. Yeah. In that post, a person wrote, "Have y'all seen floaters this clean? I'm not trying to be," and then it's an expletive I can't say on TV, but "I have never seen floaters like this," and then suggests that the photo isn't even real, that it's photoshopped. Obviously,
it's doctored, yeah.
Yeah, obviously one of the many disturbing posts there. Ben, what's generating the hate towards immigrants? Who do you think is to blame here, or do you think this has kind of always been there, and social media is just kind of bringing it up?
Yeah, so this may not be a popular thing to say, but I don't think that it's hate against immigrants. I think we live in a culture where basically no one wants to believe anything anymore. And no matter what side you're on, facts don't matter anymore. Evidence, video evidence, photographic evidence doesn't matter anymore. Look, the agent who posted this, I don't think there's anything wrong with them questioning the photograph, especially if you have experience in this space. But one of the things that I think becomes frustrating is this particular photograph of this father and child. I believe it is a real photograph. And by the way, this photograph has made its rounds through the media as if it is unique. It is actually not unique. About 7,000 people have died crossing the U.S. border from Mexico since 1998. It happens quite often, far too often. Yeah. And so, but when an image like this is being used by both sides as a weapon to weaponize their political goals, it becomes, it cheapens the photo, and it allows people to act in irrational or even vitriolic ways about it. And that's what I essentially think happened here. I think the questioning of that photo, though, because it's kind of listed among these great grievances here, I don't think it's necessarily as bad as the other photos that are, President Trump forcing AOC's head down into his lap. Things like that I think are far more offensive than someone just questioning a photo because look, we do know there are a lot of doctored photos out there. I'm not saying this is,
I mean,
but there are a lot of doctored photos.
We've talked about deep fakes and what have you on this very show, and so there are a lot of kind of gross images from that group. And another thing about the deceased father and toddler, his little girl that washed up ashore. I mean, you remember a couple of years ago that this little Syrian baby that washed ashore on Europe. Yes. In Europe, and the press made a huge hubbub about that. And do we see any political change? Do we see any shift in how we handle migrants there in Europe? No, we're still continuing bombing campaigns in Europe. So,
absolutely.
So much for change from, this one visceral photo. But now, going back to the border, Texas Senator Ted Cruz spent time there on Monday and said that Congress is to blame for the humanitarian crisis. Let's listen to what he said.
It is an incentive from the United States Congress. Go and find a small child and take that arduous journey. Risk that child's life. And I'll tell you, far too many of those children face physical abuse, they face sexual abuse, they face neglect. And a growing problem we're seeing is fraudulent family units.
All right, Ben, do you think that's fair? Is he right when he says that children are being used as a sort of get out of jail free card?
I think he is right. And Manila, I say this having grown up on the U.S.-Mexico border. I was a reporter on the U.S.-Mexico border for over 10 years and an anchor. I spent 4 years in Mexico covering the drug war there and covering human trafficking there. I have seen it firsthand and reported on it firsthand. I can tell you this, that coyotes who bring people to the border and bring them across, that human trafficking of children is not new. This is not a new problem. It's happened for years. There are many parents who would trust the coyote to bring their child across the border only to have that child taken and trafficked, and they never see them again. It has happened for years. It is not a new thing that's happening on the border. Blaming Congress for it entirely is wrong. Blaming the migrants who are coming up is wrong. Blaming just simply what the U.S. has done in these South American countries and Central American countries for decades is wrong. It is a cumulative effect of bad policies, inaction, and direct action by the U.S. in those countries that has led to the point we're at now. And so if it's multiple things causing the problem, it cannot be only one thing to solve it.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one, my friend. Being from Southern California, I get it. I hear you. I've seen all those stories myself. As always, appreciate your insight on this. Ben Swann, thank you.
Manila, thanks.
Hey YouTube, thanks for checking out our channel. We hope you enjoyed the video. We have tons of content for you just like this. For more of RT America's one-of-a-kind news and analysis, be sure to subscribe and never stop questioning more.